You're a little low.
A little low? Is this better? Hi, everybody, and welcome to the lecture today. People, stop talking. Today we're going to cover those terms right there. All right, we're going to get right up to the precipice of war. I'm telling you, people, I'm going to be a YouTube sensation. It's going to be awesome. And we're hooked. Yeah. All right. If you want to get a better look at this stuff, it's on It's Learning. So pull your phones out and look at it. It's good for your health. All right. Today we've got, like I said, we're getting right up to the precipice of war. We've already talked the rise of fascism and militarism in these three countries. Most of today really all of it is in that prelude to war. We've already talked the policy of neutrality. We will attack Pearl Harbor today and get a declaration of war from the United States. We will talk about wartime mobilization of the economy. We'll talk about migration and demographic changes. We'll get women working and the families moving. We'll talk about civil liberties issues and civil rights during war. And then the rest of these standards we will hit when we get back on Monday, right? Yeah, today's a Friday. Lovely. Let's go. So, quick review. We talked about Western democracies appeasing Hitler and Mussolini. What is appeasement?
We just sit there and say whatever happens, like they take over and
Good, and we saw, especially from Hitler and Mussolini, lots of violations to what previous treaty?
The Treaty of Versailles.
Good, Treaty of Versailles. In 1933, what did Germany do?
Get weapons.
Yeah, they rearmed themselves. In 35, what did Italy do? What part of Africa?
Ethiopia.
Good, Ethiopia. And then in 37, what did Japan do? Good, and we'll see a map of all that in a little bit. All right. Why are these nations in the 1930s making these moves?
Because the Treaty of Versailles crushed them, so that economy could come back.
Good, yeah, it crushed them. Also, at the beginning of the 30s, they elected what kind of leaders?
Fascists.
Well, of course, they turned into fascist governments, but those leaders won on platforms based off of what other ism? Nationalism. Good. And what is nationalism? Good. Pride in your nation. And you know, you couple the economic turn for those nations with nationalism, with Western democracies appeasing their violations of the treaty, and you get a whole lot of crazy going on in Europe. All right. We also talked the U.S.'s stance. Remember, we wanted to be completely out of this war. Congress wanted us out, and so we start writing neutrality acts. The Neutrality Act of 35 said what?
They had to come to us for stuff.
Nope, that'll be later.
Arms embargo on
Good.
belligerents.
Good. What is a belligerent?
Crazy country.
Somebody who's being aggressive. In this case, a nation, an aggressive nation. What is an arms embargo?
Ban on trade.
Good. In 36, we're going to renew the arms embargo, but we're also going to prohibit what?
Loans.
Loans. Things change in 37, where we go from a complete stance of neutrality to what softer stance?
Trade.
Cash carry basis.
Cash carry. And what is cash carry?
They have to bring the money with them, give us the money, then take the stuff back with them.
Good, exactly. They've got to bring money and a ship and take it over. And hit me with historical context. What are we trying to prevent? Another Lusitania-like situation. All right. Now, 1940 rolls around. FDR wants to try something new. How's he going to get American buy-in? Go to the fireside chats. And what is he going to propose that we become? Well, that's how we're going to do it. But remember, he says in that fireside, say it again?
The arsenal of democracy.
Absolutely. We must be the arsenal of democracy for these nations, because if we continue to let their house burn, what will happen to ours? Ours will burn next. Okay, good. Now, we go from neutrality to cash carry to lend-lease. What does lend-lease do?
You can buy, sell, and trade, and give anyone to anything.
Buy, sell, trade, give anything to anyone. Good. Somewhere around 50% of what we are buying, selling, trading, and giving is what?
Arms.
Things that go boom.
Yeah, things that go boom. All types of different munitions. All right. And this is big that we get this Lend-Lease because at this time in 1940, because 1940 is an election year. What's so important about this election? Or maybe not important, but odd in
FDR.
It's a third term.
good. Yeah, he's going for a third term. Is this against the Constitution?
No.
No, it's against what?
Precedent.
Precedent. Yeah, Dub's precedent. Good. Is he going to have any trouble in 1940 getting reelected for the third time? Absolutely not. Monsinos? Sure. Okay. All right. Yep. T-Rob, get online and actually register. You haven't done it yet. You need to do it. Otherwise, you can't get the credit. What was the last thing I said?
If Taylor gets reelected, there's no problem.
There you go. No problem with getting reelected. And this is where we start fresh today, correct? Yeah. All right. With this Lend-Lease, we've really moved away from neutrality, and we have got to begin mobilizing for war. All right, and lots of changes are going to take place within the country. Ladies, a lot of it is coming down on you as well. We're going back to rationing. What are some methods of rationing that we've had in the past?
Liberty Garden.
Good, Liberty Gardens. We're bringing those back. What else are we doing?
Liberty.
Well, we don't say that name anymore. Hoover sucked.
Portion.
What don't we do on Mondays and Wednesdays?
Eat meat on Mondays and meat on Wednesdays.
Yeah, our alliterative fasting. Good. We also, so we're going to get videos and a lot of lifestyle changes. Women are going to be encouraged to come into the workplace. Who's this iconic figure?
Rosie the
Rosie the Riveter. And what is the symbolism behind this? Not only that women should work, but women, yeah, again, forever. Where has a woman's place been?
The house.
Kitchen.
Taking care of the kids. It's taking care of the
A
children.
bunch of sexist dudes in this class. All right. For the most part, we saw the idea of the new woman in the 1920s, but we're really, at least on a nationwide scale, welcoming those ideals of the new woman into the workforce. All right, good. Other things that we're going to end up doing, a lot of wartime conversion. Okay, and again, this comes down on ladies. Wartime conversion, an example that I'll give you. Women in the 1930s and in the 40s, it was really in vogue. You should always be wearing silk stockings. Okay, silk stockings. It was just one of the things of the time. Like man buns today, stuff makes no sense. But anyway, silk stockings are what women were supposed to wear. But women are going to have to ration their silk stocking purchases because our factories that were creating silk stockings are now creating what else?
Parachutes.
Parachutes. All right. And what we're going to see is at the time the silk stockings weren't like pantyhose like you think of today where they're nearly sheer and you can't really tell. You can definitely tell because they were all pulled together in the back end and there was like a line where it all was sewn together that went down the back of the woman's leg right here. And during this time, while women are rationing and they can't buy any more pantyhose, they would literally draw a line up the back of their leg because it was in vogue, and it was what you're supposed to do. Well, you weren't supposed to do it, but it was fashionable. Now, some of you ladies are looking at me like you're crazy, but every single morning you wake up and put dust on your face. So, you know, people have done weirder things. People have done weirder things. What?
Like foundation.
Sure. Dust. Dust. If I can take and go and look like LeBron James, It's dust, baby. So, anyway, lots of wartime conversion, a lot of mobilization going on at this time. All right. Another thing, remember, it was a big issue within the campaign in 1940 was selective service.
I have a question.
Yo,
What is that?
Thank you.
Yeah.
this will make sense in a little bit. This is Alaska. This is California.
Oh, I thought this was
Yeah, I thought that was a dude with like a little beak or something.
Thank
No,
you.
this is Hawaii.
Really bad underline. Yeah.
When we get a map a little bit later, it all makes sense. Don't worry about that, all right?
Thank you.
It all makes sense.
Kind of freaking me out.
All right, simmer down. We got people to teach on YouTube, all right? So
Probably doing the
focus.
same thing.
They probably are. Unless, of course, they're watching it on YouTube like next week.
They can't even see it.
You are such a Debbie Downer. All right. So remember, one of the big issues in the campaign of 1940 was a draft. All right. Selective service is a what?
Draft.
Draft. Give me a word that makes you sound intelligent. Conscription. Good. All right. So U.S. we kind of feel that we're bound to go into war. Fall of 1940, Congress begins considering a draft. Previously, we've only ever had 2 drafts before. When were they? Civil War and World War I. What makes this one different? It's actually a peacetime draft. Okay. September 1940, we're going to get the Selective Service Act of said year.
1940.
That's said year.
I thought it was just a call.
It's all right. Selective Service Act 1940 said that men ages 21 to 34, I'm sorry, 35, 21 to 35 were required to register for a draft. Okay? All men 21 to 35 have to register for a draft. Set a national registration day for October 16th of 1940. Okay, so October 16th, 1940, every man age 21 to 35 has to register for a draft. Initially, those who were drafted would only serve a maximum of 1 year. Okay, you would serve 1 year. We would draft no more than 900,000 men at a time, and if you were drafted, you would not leave the Western Hemisphere. Yes?
Did you still have to register if you were in college?
Yes, yes. We'll get into deferments in just a second, but yes, everybody. Because we're trying to get a huge pool of people to select from. Okay? So, like I said, no draftee could be deployed outside the Western Hemisphere. If you violated, if you were 21 to 35 and you did not register, you could receive a $10,000 fine and up to 5 years in prison. All right? Yo.
Did you say October 9th?
16th. 16th is draft day. Okay? On October 16th, 16 million men registered for the draft. Authorities expected hundreds of protesters nationwide. We only arrested 36 people, all right, for taking their protest violent. Draftees had to complete a questionnaire. They were given a registration card. On the registration card, it had a number, and your number was the only, in your district, you were the only person with that number, all right? November 1940 was the first draft, okay? A lot the same way as we saw in World War I. The draft committee would come into your district with a large fishbowl full of blue capsules. In each capsule there was a number, all right? They would stir it up, blindfold you, reach in, pull the number. The first number that was ever pulled was number 158. Not important for you to know that. But everybody who, well, there was only one person in that district, but everybody across the country with the number 158, you just got drafted into the military. Okay? Enforcement, making sure that the people did show up. In each district, there were draft boards that were formed, and they made decisions on who went. You had to get a physical, both physical and mental examination to ensure that you were fit to serve. All right. Now, we began making amendments, because everything that we just covered was the original Selective Service Act of 1940. We are going to make some changes, some amendments to it. And the amendments began in August of 1941. August of 1941, how's the war doing in Europe?
It's starting to get worse.
It's really getting worse. So we raised the length of service to 2.5 years, all right, to 2.5 years. And we're also going to extend the age limits from 18 to 65. All right, from 18 to 65. The reason we're going to expand this from 21 to 35 to 18 to 65 is because that's going to give us a 43 million man pool to select from. Now, do we really want a whole bunch of 60-year-olds fighting in the military? No. Unless, of course, it's like Major Kelly. I mean, that dude can kill you with a Q-tip. So, if I'm going into war, I want them on my side. All right? Really what they're looking for is people ages 21 to 26, right when you're in that theoretical prime in terms of your physique as a male. All right? We're really not going to take anybody over the age of 45, but again, there's always those wild cards, like Major Kelly, love you, man, that you don't want to leave those people behind, especially if they're willing to go. Okay? But again, the preference was 21 to 26 years old. In 1942, all men were required to register on their 18th birthday, and after Pearl Harbor went down, if you were drafted, you were going to serve for the duration of the war. Okay? Now, let's talk deferments, because there were ways out of being drafted. One of the big deferments was the Tidings Amendment. Okay, the Tidings Amendment. Tidings Amendment is going to hit the Selective Service Act in 1942. The Tidings Amendment exempted agricultural workers. All right, exempted agricultural workers. Why are we going to exempt agricultural workers from going to war?
Because we need some food over there.
Got to keep our food supplies up. Got to keep them up. We're going to exempt industrial workers that are working in wartime industry. So if you're turning pantyhose into parachutes, you're not going to war. All right? Initially, married men were exempt. What did we see happening?
Marriage.
Yeah. So in 1942, the marital exemption was exempted. I'm sorry, the marital... It's happening. I can feel it in my face. Death. Hitler is trying to take over my face. He's trying to kill me with fascism. All right? I'm a little ill. 1942, the marital exemption would be repealed. Okay, the marital exemption would be repealed. Initially, fathers were exempt. What did we see happening?
A lot of babies.
Babies were being created. That was repealed. However, if you were a pre-Pearl Harbor father, if you were drafted, you would either stay at home or well behind, enemy lines. And we're going to try to take care of you. Okay? So, we've got a draft going, and you can see different propaganda that is going to encourage people to join up. Yeah. Yeah, there's clearly some, stuff's not PC in what we would consider today's world. All right. So we've got selective service. But what era are we still living in? What? Plessy versus Ferguson, which means what?
Segregation.
Segregation. Okay. That guy, A. Philip Randolph. He's a little bit out of shape about this. Probably should be. He doesn't like that minorities are being refused employment in wartime industry simply because they're black. He writes FDR and says that it is absurd that people who want to help this country are being denied, and he proposes, or he tells FDR that if something isn't changed, then he is going to lead hundreds and thousands of people that are angry about this to march on Washington, D.C. Does FDR want a whole bunch of angry people who just want to help out marching around? No. And so FDR is going to meet Philip Randolph's request with Executive Order 8802. Okay? Executive Order 8802 is going to desegregate wartime industries. Okay? Desegregate wartime industry. Is it pretty clear we're getting ready to go to war? Yeah. In July of 41, FDR is going to instruct the War and the Navy departments. We did not have everybody under one house in the Department of Defense yet. We have a War and a Navy. And so FDR is going to instruct the War and Navy departments to plan for war. This is what is called the Victory Program. Provisions of the Victory Program. The first objective, beat Germany